No fireworks from TCS in the second quarter. Dollar revenue rises 3%, missing expectations for the fifth straight quarter. Margins and volumes growth remains robust.
Infosys trumps TCS as dollar revenue grows twice as fast at 6%, but TCS commands higher margins and also beats Infosys on volume growth.
It's fifth time lucky for AB INBEV. The world's largest brewer has agreed to pay $104 billion to acquire its closest rival, SAB Miller. This will be the fifth largest corporate takeover of all time.
The Enforcement Directorate and CBI arrest 6 people in connection with the Bank of Baroda case. Illegal remittances worth over 5,100 crore rupees have been unearthed from 59 accounts.
RBI waves the green flag for State Bank of India to set up a new subsidiary to manage its non-banking activities. The new arm will manage real estate holdings worth 25,000 crore rupees. That's an exclusive.
Builders across India protest days after Suraj Parmar, a realtor in Thane, committed suicide. In a suicide note, Parmar had accused bureaucrats of seeking bribes for project clearances.
After hot rolled steel, the Director General of Anti-Dumping recommends safeguards for cold rolled stainless steel, proposes a 5-year duty on imports from China, Europe and the US, among others. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive.
Government recognizes taxi aggregators like Ola and Uber for the first time, issues a non-binding advisory to the states, says taxi aggregators must obtain a license, cannot own or lease vehicles and must operate a call center. That's an exclusive.
The government has mega dreams, but FDI and defense has only been firing blanks so far. Investments have not even crossed $1 million since September last year. Special report coming up.
10 lakh products sold in just 10 hours. Flipkart's billion-day sale gets off to a flying start. Amazon is luring customers with gold, and Snapdeal sees its sales jump 17 times.
Last 10 years, I think for me, Messi was the best player who I saw. A lot of people compare Messi with Ronaldo, but it is a two different kind of player. Cristiano Ronaldo is more forward, center forward. Messi is the more, prepare the game, more different styles. But both players was fantastic. I wish both players play my team, no doubt.
Well, he's 74 and last played a professional game more than 3 decades ago, but football legend Pele continues to rule Kolkata's hearts. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. Surabhi, who's better, Pele or Maradona?
Well, I can't claim to be any expert on football, Shreen, but I guess Maradona perhaps wins simply because Pele played with the golden generation of Brazil's footballers, whereas Maradona single-handedly got Argentina the cup.
Well, both football legends irrespective, but enough of the football talk. Let's head straight to Dalal Street and take you through the action that we saw this afternoon. Selling pressure continued for the second straight day, but the bulls did fight back in late trade, recouping some of those losses. The Nifty ending marginally lower, but it did manage to keep its head above the 8,100 mark. The Sensex down 50 points, remains within a striking distance of 27,000. Mid-caps did manage to buck the trend, and the mid-cap index ended in the green. From Dalal Street to a quick check of Mint Street, where the rupee lost 44 paise in trade today, closing at 65.18 against the dollar on persistent demand from banks and importers. But let's head straight to the top story at this hour. IT bellwether TCS has reported dollar revenues below street expectations. In Q2, growth for TCS at 3%. This is below the CNBC TV 18 poll estimate of 3.6% and just half of what Infosys managed in the second quarter. But volume growth and margins remain robust, and the company has also added more high-value clients. Rima joins us now with her analysis. Rima, you've heard the management, you've spoken with analysts. What do you make of TCS's second quarter?
Well, it's a lackluster set of earnings from TCS. They have missed street expectations in the top line. The dollar revenue growth stands at 3%, lower than the 3.5% that the street was anticipating, and it's also lower than what they had clocked in the prior quarter. That said, the rupee revenues, margins and profits are in line with street expectations. Rupee revenue goes up by 5.8%. Margins expand by close to about 80 basis points to 27.1%, while the profits rise by 6%, and all these parameters are largely in line with expectations. On the top line, the company's constant currency growth stands at only 3.9%, so that's a bit disappointing. The street was hoping for a constant currency growth of 4.3%, 4.4%, but volume growth looks fairly robust at 4.9%, and it marks a bit of an improvement compared to what they clocked in the prior quarter. With respect to margins, which have gone up by nearly 80 basis points, about 68 basis points is on account of Forex, and remaining 10 basis points is on account of operational efficiencies, but margins were expected to remain within the company's guided band of 26 to 28%. Some of the other internals are looking fairly healthy. So deal win stands at 13%. Utilization has been fairly steady, 86%. If you exclude the trainees, digital continues to be the key contributor to its growth. So digital has seen a growth of 10.7% in constant currency terms, and it now contributes 13.3% to its overall revenues, and client mining continues to remain fairly healthy. From the management commentary, they still seem pretty okay. They've indicated that out of the earlier identified 3 headwinds, for at least one of them, that's Latin America, they seem to be out of the woods. So they believe that growth in Latin America will take place from here on, at least in constant currency terms. But for Diligenta as well as Japan, it will continue to be soft. So this quarter has not been that great for TCS. As we pointed out, there is a miss compared to consensus expectations, at least on the top line. But the question is, after the kind of underperformance TCS has already put in, how much of it is already priced in? Back to you.
All right, Rima, stay on with us. Before we talk about the big Infosys versus TCS question, here's the TCS management, starting with CEO N. Chandrasekaran, who expects growth to pick up and attrition to ease.
There is always an acceleration from Q1 to Q2, which has happened this year also. If you see the constant currency growth, it was 3.5% last quarter. It has accelerated to 3.9%. Our volume growth has also gone up from 4.8% to 4.9%. If you see the margins have improved, and if you see the growth across segments, we have delivered a very, very secular growth. And one of the things that you will notice is also that I had said softness around 3 areas, basically around Japan, Diligenta, and Latin America. The softness around Latin America has been overcome. Latin America has delivered growth, and I expect that Latin America will continue to grow on a constant currency basis. Of course, the cross-currency impact of Latin America is very high, so you have not seen that translate into dollar growth. But in terms of CC growth, Latin America has done very well. But the softness in Japan and Diligenta continues, and I expect it to continue for a few more quarters.
Even the absolute number, it has come down as compared to last quarter. From 15,000 to 14,500, it's come down. If you look at the quarterly attrition rate and annualize it over a year, it's come down by about 1%. So there is a good performance as far as attrition is concerned. And I'm quite hopeful that as we go forward, most of the initiatives that we are taking in order to control attrition, that is going to play out as we are planning. And Q3 and Q4 attrition is going to come down further as we go forward.
All right, that was the management. Rima, let's come back to you now. So how does the second quarter performance comparison now stack up between TCS and Infosys?
Well, at least compared to expectations, Infosys numbers do look superlative because they were a comprehensive beat. So first, to run you through the dollar revenue growth. For TCS, it stood at 3%, but for Infosys, it stood at 6%. But again, the point to note is that TCS is a much larger company. Its revenues are greater than that of Infosys by nearly 70%. So it's a much larger base to grow that rate at. With respect to the EBIT percentage, TCS has been operating at higher margins compared to Infosys for the last few quarters, and that continues. And right now, it's 27.1% for TCS, whereas for Infosys, it stands at 25.5%. Constant currency growth for Infosys was faster superior at 6.9% compared to 3.9% that TCS clocked in. It's only in the volume growth that the picture changes. TCS, despite at a much larger base, saw a volume growth of 4.9% as compared to Infosys at 3.7%. But net-net, just purely between the two numbers and purely comparing it to what the analysts were anticipating, Infosys was a beat, whereas TCS, at best, you could say, was meeting expectations with a miss on the top line.
All right, Rima, thanks very much for that comparison there. And of course, watch out for TCS because the numbers came out after the markets had closed for the day. So the markets will react to the numbers tomorrow and catch the management live and first right here on CNBC TV 18 starting 8:10 a.m. But let's move on to the big global story. It could potentially be the 5th largest corporate takeover in history and the largest ever brewery deal. AB InBev has finally succeeded in relentlessly pursuing its British brewer Sam Miller in the 5th attempt. AB InBev is the world's largest brewer, and it will shell out a whopping $104 billion to acquire its closest rivals. Both sides have agreed in principle to create a deal to create a brewing empire that will make about 1/3 of the world's beer market. CNBC's Wilfred Frost and Caroline Roth are here with the contours of this mega deal, a $104 billion global deal, guys.
ABI and SAB Miller have reached an agreement in principle on the terms of a takeover. Under the deal, SAB shareholders will receive £44 per share, representing a 50% premium to the September the 14th closing price. If the two largest brewing companies in the world fail to complete the deal, ABI will pay its smaller rival a $3 billion reverse break fee. And Carolyn, as this has played out, this is now the 4th bid. We've gone from £38 to $44. SAB's played hard to get, and it seems to have worked. They've got a huge amount extra out of it.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been playing hard to get for such a long time. We know this also happened with Anheuser-Busch, back for InBev, so they have a little bit of experience in dealing with someone who really doesn't want to be bought. But at the end of the day, the question you've got to ask is AB InBev paying too much? Because the premium that we've got now is 50%. Well, SAB Miller has repeatedly said the first 3 offers, that it fundamentally undervalued the company because that offer was made when emerging market exposed companies were down. Now you've got to wonder, did they get a really good deal, AB InBev?
Yeah, I think the SAB shareholders are going to be pretty pleased with this. They would have probably been pleased when the first bid was made, even if they wanted to hold off on that. The other big question, of course, is whether this still goes through. There are lots of issues, most notably Competition Commission issues. So that $3 billion break fee that's also been mooted could come into play if Competition Commission's getting. There's certainly going to need to be some divestitures, we think, in the US and China. So a long way to go, but big progress today, given that we've had that deal accepted.
Did you know that if this deal goes through, and I know there's so many regulatory hurdles, they together would control 30% of the global beer market, and that's 20% lead over the next one, and that is Heineken.
Well, thanks very much, guys. They say 3 times is a charm, but clearly in this case, the 5th attempt is what has worked for both those brewers. But back home, on to the latest in the 6,000 crore rupee scam involving Bank of Baroda. The Enforcement Directorate has arrested 4 people in the case. CNN IBN's Ashish Merishi joins us now with more details. Ashish, so arrests being made in the Bank of Baroda matter, and the Enforcement Directorate interestingly saying that Bank of Baroda has actually not had any financial loss on account of this alleged scam, but has gained because business has gone up.
Well, in fact, Shireen, this is a classic example on how the exchequer is cheated when there are schemes which are launched by the government to promote a particular trade. Now, in this case, basically, duty drawback scheme has been used to benefit themselves. Here, the exporters and importers have classically used the duty drawback scheme where the exporter has gained of the duty drawback due to over invoicing, and the importer has gained by saving the customs duty by under invoicing. So now 4 people have been arrested by the Enforcement Directorate. They were produced before the court today, and the ED has got 4 days remand. As far as the CBI is concerned, 2 bank officials have been arrested. They are Janesh Dubey and SK Garg. They both have been arrested, and they are also being produced before the court. But as far as Enforcement Directorate goes, the most interesting part is that a senior official of HDFC has been arrested, who has also done the same, who has used the same modus operandi in HDFC Bank, and ED has started investigation in HDFC Bank as well regarding this case itself.
All right, Ashish, thank you so much for that. Let's now move to a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. The country's largest lender, State Bank of India, is looking to set up a new subsidiary to manage its non-banking activities. CNBC TV 18's Ritu Singh joins in with the details. Ritu, what sort of a subsidiary is this? What kind of businesses is it going to house?
Well, the State Bank of India is looking to set up its 8th non-banking subsidiary. We understand from sources that the State Bank of India has now got an in-principle approval from the Reserve Bank of India to set up this new subsidiary which will look at non-banking operations, primarily real estate. So what the new subsidiary will really do is manage, advise and transact everything related to real estate that the bank currently holds. In fact, the internal estimates of the State Bank of India are that the properties managed by it, all the offices and the residences owned by the State Bank of India, their market value is about 25,000 odd crores, and that entire portfolio will be managed by this new subsidiary, so the bank can focus on its core operations, bring down costs and also improve operational efficiency. We do understand that they had mooted this idea last year, but now they've got the groundwork running, and they've in fact roped in KPMG to advise them on the setting up of this new subsidiary. In fact, they hope to start the operations very soon. They hope to set up the subsidiary by the end of this year and start operations by March of next year. In fact, we also spoke to the management of State Bank of India earlier today, and they did confirm the story, saying that they are in fact looking to start the subsidiary very, very soon.
Value of the real estate that we have on our books is, the book value is about 2,000 odd crores. It's in excess of 2,100 crores. The market value would be in the range of the last valuation that we did was about a year ago, in the range of about 23,600 odd crores. Try and set up the subsidiary company by the end of this year, start its operations in a small way early next year, and to have the all India spread of its operations by March 2017.
Well, that's SBI taking us through the plans for a new subsidiary that will house its non-banking operations. Now, the government is doing all it can to safeguard the steel sector. The import duty on hot-rolled coal products have already been hiked. CNBC TV 18 learns the Director General of Anti-Dumping has now recommended an import duty hike on cold-rolled stainless steel products for the next 5 years. The levy, if approved by the Cabinet, will be imposed on all imports coming in from countries like the US, China, Korea, Thailand, Africa, as well as the European Union. This move is definitely going to benefit companies like Jindal Stainless as well as SAIL, so watch out for those stocks in trade. But on to another exclusive tonight. The Modi government was gung-ho about its decision to hike the defence FDI cap to 49% last year in an effort to make India a hub of integrating state-of-the-art weapon systems. The policy move was followed by announcements of several joint ventures and intentions of investing in the sector. But a hard look at the data shows a paltry hike in dollar inflows into the sector. Take a look at the CNBC TV 18 special report. When the defence FDI cap was hiked to 49%, policymakers predicted big-ticket dollar inflows into the sector. But global investors are still wary about setting up a base in India. Data shows that in the September 2014 to June 2015 period, only $950,000 have flowed into the sector. This is just a notch better than the coir sector and is lower than what sectors like drawing instruments or dyes got. That's not all. Post-liberalization of the FDI policy, the FIPB cleared defence FDI proposals of less than $15 million. Experts say defence FDI inflows won't improve till foreign investors are allowed majority control.
Unless we increase our FDI limits to, as KPMG proposes, 74% and speed up the procurement process to bring it down to just about a year or 2 years for critical purchases, I do not see much increase in the FDI into India.
There are other reasons as well. Foreign investors want assured orders from the Ministry of Defence, the sole buyer of defence products in India.
If the buyer is not interested or doesn't give kind of assurance that products manufactured by the foreign investors in India would be purchased, so no investors would come and invest their money here.
The FDI liberalization has created a buzz as demonstrated by the 30-odd joint ventures involving companies like the Reliance Group, Tata Group as well as the Mahindras. But experts say these tie-ups are focused only on the local market.
Most of these joint ventures are still focusing on the Indian orders.
As a result,
Experts maintain that instead of becoming a systems integrator, India could at best become a low-key partner in the defense value chain.
We have become more of a supplier of non-critical, non-sensitive sub-assemblies and components rather than creating entire platforms.
The government maintains that India is set to see huge defense FDI inflows after the procurement norms are tweaked, which should happen over the next 2 to 3 months.
I think a lot of more orders need to flow from the defense ministry. The defense offset policy is at a very, very advanced stage. I think a number of decisions have been taken for future as far as offset policy is concerned. I think they need to set right a couple of things with retrospective effect. The defense procurement policy is also at its final stages, and I think in the next 2 to 3 months you'll see a huge movement altogether on the defense side.
While Manohar Parrikar is taking faster decisions in the Defense Acquisition Council and the DIPP has pitched in with easier norms, the Modi government will have to take a deeper and a more comprehensive tweaking of the FDI as well as the defense procurement policy to make India a hub of high-tech manufacturing. In New Delhi with Shireen Bhan, Rituparna Bhuyan.
And I caught up with CEO Uday Bhaskar, the director of at the Society of Policy Studies, and asked him if a change in policy could ensure that India moved beyond being just a key supplier of non-strategic parts when it comes to the defense sector. Here's his response to our CNBC TV 18 special report.
We need a very, very radical kind of strategic overview where the foreign manufacturer is given what I would call as a more empathetic kind of treatment, which is not the case now. This country is still under what you might call as the Bofors HTW kind of shadow, which is that every foreign manufacturer is deemed to be someone who is trying to quote-unquote corrupt the system unless they prove otherwise. So I'm afraid we have not built up those kind of comfort levels with foreign manufacturers. The only place where India seems to have some degree of what I would call as faith is in the equivalent of government-to-government supplies.
What would be the 3 specific things that you believe the government needs to do to really drive big-ticket FDI in the defense sector?
You know, very broadly, Shireen, I'm afraid I also share your pessimism on this. I do not see the great Indian octopus, which is what the Indian system has become in terms of rules and regulations, changing in a hurry. Now, I know that the MOD and various representatives have tried to project a very positive and optimistic picture. But my concern is that when Prime Minister Modi went to Tokyo last year, 2014, he talked about the Indian red tape becoming the red carpet. I'm afraid we have not seen anything that would lend any credibility to this assertion. And I think the challenge for the Prime Minister and the Defense Ministry is to ensure that at least one sector, the foreign manufacturer, the foreign participant, is made to feel welcome, and also the incentives are credible. Because let's face it, any foreign manufacturer who wants to come into India has to be assured of a long-term return on whatever they are bringing into the country. Now, we always seem to be of the view that they are doing us, or rather that we are doing them a favor by allowing them to enter the Indian market. So I'm afraid that whole attitude itself is something that is not conducive. So if I have to identify 3 things, I would say that we need much greater transparency in terms of rules and regulations. We need to compress timelines in terms of how quickly approvals are accorded. And thirdly, the most important, do not see the foreign vendor or the foreign manufacturer as somebody who is already guilty unless they come into India and prove otherwise. I think these are 3 very important issues.
India's quest for FDI in defense manufacturing. Moving on, real estate developers body CREDAI held a one-day strike today as a mark of protest against red tapeism in the sector. The body says it's bureaucratic inefficiencies which drove developer and CREDAI member Suraj Parmar to commit suicide last week. The effect of the strike was felt in metros like Chennai as well as Mumbai. Jude Sanath and Kevin Lee report.
Well, I'm standing in front of the office of Cosmos Developers. This is where Suraj Parmar worked. Suraj Parmar, of course, killed himself last week, alleging financial trouble brought on due to bureaucracy and red tapeism by real estate authorities. Remember, it takes anywhere between 50 and 60 licenses to get a real estate project off the ground in Mumbai. CREDAI, the real estate group, has taken out a peace march to protest this.
Regulatory hurdles and lack of single-window clearances are issues the real estate sector has been raising for a long time. But the death of CREDAI member Suraj Parmar has brought the issue in sharp focus. Parmar, a real estate developer and president of the Thane Realty Industry Body, committed suicide citing harassment by government officials in seeking approvals for projects.
This clearly happened because of the archaic systems that have been ruling real estate for years and years together. We do believe that the new government has in their heart, they want to simplify systems and processes. It's our request to the government that please free up this sector.
The effect of industry body CREDAI's one-day strike was felt down south in Chennai as well. Builders boycotted work demanding administrative reforms. A delegation of developers from Tamil Nadu met officials at the Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority and the Department of Town and Country Planning to press for single-window clearances. The demand for single-window clearances aside, developers in Chennai have also begun rallying against corruption in the real estate sector. These builders say that rampant corruption at different levels in the bureaucracy has affected the pace of construction across Tamil Nadu.
It's all happening in isolation. So probably the people at the top also are not aware of what's going on down below. So unless this is one day where we are trying to escalate and draw the attention of all the the authorities concerned.
With Kevin Lee in Mumbai, in Chennai, Jude Sanath.
Well, the need to really look at what is happening on the ground when you talk about the ease of doing business, the approval process, and of course corruption, which continues to be rampant and a big issue as far as the real estate sector is concerned. But moving on now, the Great Indian Online Sale is off to a rip-roaring start, with customers falling over themselves to make the most of mouth-watering deals and special offers. Flipkart, for instance, says that within 10 hours of its sale opening, it sold a whopping 10 lakh products already. Take a look.
E-tailers Amazon, Flipkart and Snapdeal have clicked with customers even as they push the pedal this festive season. Amazon and Flipkart are neck and neck in the race to lure shoppers with special deals lasting similar time frames. Flipkart is confident this year's sale will eclipse last year's, where it raked in $100 million in just 10 hours.
We have almost 60% market share of all fashion. Both Flipkart Fashion and Myntra Fashion has seen a huge surge in order volume today, given their focus is also on fashion. I said earlier, we are going to sell 20 lakh pieces of fashion products, which is, if you translate into seconds, almost 25 products per second, throughout the day. So you can imagine there's huge demand. We had more than 10 million people who use our app today.
App downloads are a new facet of the war this time, and e-tailers have created special discounts and offers for their app users. Amazon, for instance, will announce the first winner of its 1 kilo of gold prize on Wednesday. E-tailers have also spent time, energy and money to keep technical glitches down to a minimum this year, and their efforts have largely paid off.
Overall performance have been flawless, just by some few minor glitches, but other than that, things are going very smoothly. The app experience is pretty good. Offers are also very broad and deep discounts, so we are getting very good response from customers. Since 12:15 midnight, things have been running absolutely smoothly, and I don't expect any more glitches to occur.
Amazon and Flipkart may be squaring off against each other, but its rival Snapdeal seems to be enjoying the first mover advantage. Snapdeal's ongoing festival sale saw the company receive orders worth $100 million on Monday alone, and it has shipped 85% of these orders. This rivalry is clearly visible, with e-tailers taking to ad campaigns to take pot shots at each other and grab customer attention. So don't be surprised if you see more heavy discounts, bigger gifts and crazier offers as the e-tailer war intensifies. Bureau Report, CNBC TV 18.
Well, I haven't contributed to the sales, Surabhi, have you?
Neither have I. I think I'm still old-fashioned, good old-fashioned brick and mortar when there's time.
All right, coming up next, the government recognizes taxi aggregators like Ola and Uber for the first time. The centre issues new rules. Stay tuned to find out more.
And the big Network 18 world exclusive, Pakistan's top leadership knew about Osama bin Laden's hideout in Abbottabad in an insider's revelation coming up.